Here's the thing, China is breaking export records and it's beating developed countries in one high-tech industry after another. You'd think the average person there would be living better than ever, right? But look at what's actually happening. In major first-tier cities, entire floors of office buildings in prime locations are just empty. More than 4 million new graduates this year can't find stable full-time work. And I'm not just talking about statistics. This happened to someone in my own family. Even factory work is getting harder to find. In some places, workers have to pay a recruiter just to get their name on a waiting list. Meanwhile, Chinese cars have taken the #1 spot in Australia, pushing Japanese brands out of first place. And last year, China's trade surplus crossed $1 trillion. So how does that make any sense? That's what we're getting into today. How did this happen? And is there any end in sight? The official export numbers for the first quarter of this year were up 11.9%. Another all-time record. Sounds great, but the moment you dig into those numbers, something starts to look wrong. Solar panels, new energy vehicles, and shipbuilding, the higher-end sectors, jumped 17.6%. But everyday goods, clothing, and other labor-heavy industries fell by 3%. The high end is taking off, the low end is falling apart. Now, from a national strategy standpoint, this is basically the plan. Let India and Vietnam take the cheaper low-end manufacturing, China moves up the value chain and keeps the higher-end industries at home. That's what industrial upgrading is supposed to look like. And honestly, 10 years ago, who would have thought China would become the world's biggest car exporter? But here's the part nobody talks about. These two types of industries don't create anywhere near the same number of jobs. The difference is night and day. Put it this way, $100 million worth of clothing and everyday goods may require thousands of workers, cutting, sewing, packaging, logistics, dozens of steps. But $100 million worth of solar panels or electric vehicles, maybe 100 workers are enough. So when low-end industries collapse, millions of working-class people are left without work. And no matter how fast the high-tech sector grows, it simply cannot absorb that many people. The data makes it pretty clear. China's textile industry peaked at 4.63 million workers in 2015. By 2025, only 1.98 million were left. In 10 years, the workforce shrank by about 60%. Everyday goods, toys, furniture, almost every major labor-intensive industry is moving in the same direction. So what did China look like 10 years ago? Right after Chinese New Year, factory bosses would line up at labor markets, fighting over workers. They competed on wages, they competed on benefits, they competed on working hours. Workers had their pick of jobs. Bosses were the ones sweating. But today, workers have to pay a middleman just to get a shot at a factory job. It's not that factories don't want workers, it's that many factories have shut down. The jobs simply aren't there anymore. By the end of 2024, China had nearly 250 million people in what the government calls flexible employment. That's about 1 in 3 workers in the country. But the official unemployment rate? Only around 5%. People aren't stupid. Under that kind of pressure, most people know it's safer to stay quiet. And young people are being hit the hardest. In 2025, more than 4 million college graduates couldn't find work. There are no jobs waiting for them. These kids have barely even stepped into society. Are we really going to say the job shortage is because they didn't try hard enough? A lot of people are confused by one thing. China has saved up so much from its trade surplus over the years. So why is domestic demand still so weak? Are Chinese people just natural savers? That's not it. The real reason is this. For the past few decades, China's economic model has run on one strategy: keep ordinary people's share of income low, and take those resources to support companies and big investments instead. Let's look at the numbers. In China, household disposable income is about 43% of GDP. What does that mean? Let's compare. In developed countries, it's 50 to 65%. In China, it's only 43%. In other words, for every $100 of GDP, Chinese families only get 43. In developed countries, families get 50 to 65. That gap, more than 10 percentage points, decides the quality of life for an entire society. That missing money is what a family spends after food and rent, to travel, to buy new furniture, to upgrade their phone, to make life a little better. So where did that money go? It went to companies and the government to upgrade technology, to expand production, to build highways, and to subsidize exporters so that made in China stays cheap on the global market. And there's more. China's healthcare, pensions, and unemployment safety net are still behind developed countries. So people feel uneasy. They're afraid to spend. They secure like crazy, just in case. That's why China's savings rate is so high. And those savings, the banks take them and lend them to companies. So in the end, it's a loop. Ordinary people end up using their own savings to subsidize companies. China did this for 40 years. It finished in 40 years what other countries took 100 years to do. But the price is this: no matter how hard you try, domestic demand just won't go up. From 2023 to 2024, in just 2 years, Chinese families paid off more than 7 trillion yuan of mortgages early. That's about $1 trillion US. If that money had stayed in the economy instead of paying down debt, turning into spending, into wages, imagine how much demand it would create. China's CPI, the inflation rate, has been close to zero for 3 years straight, from 2023 to 2025. China is quietly entering deflation, and here's the scariest part of deflation. Once people expect prices to fall, everyone delays spending. And here's what makes it worse. China's spending structure is fragile to begin with. Cars and electronics, these two big-ticket items, make up 35% of household spending on durable goods. That's much higher than 20% in the US. So when the economy turns cold, the first thing people cut is exactly this, and is the biggest part of their spending. Companies can't sell, so they cut prices. With new profit, they cut jobs and wages. Then body drops even more. It's a death spiral. On top of all this, the yuan is going up. On the surface, the yuan can buy more now. Sounds good, right? But of some industries, it's a double-edged sword. The first to get hit is export manufacturing. If you're an exporter, you prices everything in US dollars. Before, 7 yuan bought $1. Now it only takes 6.5, so you sell the same thing, but you get back less yuan, especially textiles, toys, and home appliances. These industries survive on low prices and high volume. Their competitiveness drops fast, especially textiles, toys, and home appliances. These industries survive on low prices and high volume. Their competitiveness drops fast, and their orders go to Vietnam and India. Import-competing industries are hurting too. People used to buy local because it was cheaper. Now imported goods are cheaper thanks to the exchange rate, so local products lose their price advantage. But on the other hand, companies that import raw materials or high-end equipment are doing just fine. So a strong yuan is a double-edged sword. Who it hurts and how much depends on where you sit in the supply chain. The Chinese government has said publicly, "We don't aim for a big trade surplus." In plain words, they want to bring it down. Right now, the whole world is watching Chinese manufacturing. A $1 trillion surplus is just too big, and the diplomatic pressure keeps growing. There's also a strategic reason behind the strong yuan. Protect the high end, let the low end go. Cars, batteries, chips, these have a technology premium. They can handle a 5% rise. But clothing and shoes, this low-end manufacturing, they're on their own. And the price is this. The industries that hire the most workers are being abandoned on purpose, and those workers lose their job. Let's look at a piece of news. Apple, the global tech giant. In fiscal 2025, its net profit topped $112 billion, a record high. But its CEO, Tim Cook, made $74.3 million in a single year. That's 533 times what the median worker makes. Meanwhile, the Chinese workers at Foxconn, the ones who actually assemble Apple's products, got a raise of just 150 yuan a month. That's about $20. Now look at Toyota. Toyota has a profit-sharing system. In its record year, Toyota fully accepted the union's demands and raised employee bonuses to the level of 7.6 months of salary, a historic high. And the whole company, hundreds of thousands of workers, everyone got a share. Both are industry giants. Both made great profits. On one side, an executive takes home dozens, even hundreds of times what a regular worker makes, and the workers get a little pocket money. On the other side, the profit gets shared with all employees by rule, and everyone really does take home a few extra months of pay. This is what a low household income share looks like in real life. I'm not making a moral judgment. As long as it's legal, shareholders have every right to split the money however they want. But from the view of the whole economy, when your domestic demand is already weak, when your household income share is already low by global standards, can the economy really keep running like this? The people at the bottom sacrifice their entire lives so the country can grow. How long will this last? Nobody has the answer. Some people refuse to be the sacrifice. They borrow from relatives, they take out bank loans, and they risk their lives, traveling thousands of miles to enter the US illegally. From Fujian province alone, 300,000 young people have left. And what kind of future is waiting for them?